Daf is Daf Nun Vav. Start again. And the last thing we learned was the Mishnah Acharena says the Mishnah Acharena says you're allowed to trade grapes with a goy because it does not have a status of wine while you're trading the grapes on that slope thing. That's not it's not yet a problem of wine. So there's no problem you're getting any benefit from Isser Hana. And in the fact that you are trading with him, he already made a tummy anyway, so you're not generating any tummy, even if you're holding, you're not allowed to make tummy at Yisrael, and you're not helping out to do an avera because the guy has no avera. You can't help a yid obviously because the yid shouldn't be doing it, and you're not allowed to help someone doing an avera. But then the Mishnah Acharona came along and said that no, it already has a status of wine while the wine is on that slope, and therefore you're getting hana from Yayin Nesech or from Stam Yain. Stam Yain means we don't know that there's no libation there, but nevertheless, the Rabbanon asked it because we don't want any his arbors, we don't want any mingling and socializing with Goyim, and then we made it similar to the laws of Yayin Nesech. So now we are up to the top of the page, 4 lines on the top of the page. 3 lines. The Einu Oise Yayin Nesech Achi Yedid Labar. Our Mishnah says that our Mishnah is the Mishnah Rishayna, the first version. The first version was it does not have a status of wine, the laws of wine, until actually it reaches inside the boiler itself, inside the vat, inside the cistern. But not while it's on the slope. It was only later in the Mishnah Acharena that we said already on the slope it's already considered wine. Says the Gemara, but Tanya, we learned elsewhere in the Braisa, Yayin, Mishayikva. Now, these laws over there have nothing to do with Yayin Nesech, but it has to do with the status of wine. We know when it comes to giving Truma Meiser, you don't have an obligation to give Truma Meiser until the food is finally ready. So as long as the food is not finally ready, it's not yet Mahatera Chayim and Truma Meiser. So what the din is, you're allowed to eat from it. It's not yet Tevel. As soon as Ara, you're allowed to eat snacks, casual. You cannot have a permanent meal. But once it's finally completed, then now you cannot eat it at all because it's Tevel. In fact, you Chayim Misa until you give your Truma and your Meiser. So now the Gemara is in this Bryce. It says, "Yayin." When do we say that wine has a status of wine? And now it's chayiv, in the meisers and all that. Mishayikva. Only not just when it sits in the boy in the cistern, but when the scum and all the dregs and everything else floats to the top. That means everything's settled, and underneath that you have good wine. That's considered gemar malacha complete. And our Mishnah says when it comes to Avodah Zarah that as soon as it reaches the boil, it already has a status of wine. This is the first. We're now talking according to the first version. Because according to the second version, even before it gets to the boil, just sitting on the midrun, just where you tread the grapes, already the wine there has a status of wine. Anyway, it says in the Braisa, Yain Mashik, we have a problem. So Amar Rava says, so Rava clearly holds there's no difference between the laws of Avodah Zarah when it comes to the status of wine, or the laws of Meiser when it comes to the status of wine. We're in Daf Nun Vav, 5 lines on top. So Amar Rava, like Kasha, it's not a problem. Why not a problem? Because actually an argument between Tanaim. Rabbi Akiva, an argument Tanaim, when exactly does it have the status of wine? That now we learned in the Mishnah, Yayin, Mishiyar the Tanakama, the Rabbanan hold that when does it have the status of wine as soon as it reaches the bird? Exactly like our Mishnah. And Rabbi Akiva says, Mishiyikva. No. Even then, when it reaches the bar, it's not yet wine. It's not gemar malacha. You know when's gemar malacha? When you're ready to drink. When's you're ready to drink? When all the scum flows to the top. It can take a while before everything rises to the top. Only then is it considered gemar malacha. No stira. Our Mishnah follows Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, let me ask a question. When you say kifui, is it kifui the boy or kifui the chavis? Which kifui are we talking about? Are we talking about the kifui that's in the boir, which is the first stage after the midrun? You tread the grapes, it goes into this boir, into this vat, and then from there you pour it into chavis. When you pour into chavis, there's still some scum left over. You're right. So then you took all the scum off the top by the boir, and then you pour wine into the chavis. But now it sits again for a while, and then whatever the dregs and all the junk there goes to the top, flows to the top. So there's 2 stages of kifui. Which kifui is gemar malacha? Is the first stage enough, or you have to wait to the second stage? Tashma coming here. The Tanya we learned, it says in the Mishnah Yayin, wine, Mishnah Yikva, it says that when is wine considered wine? As soon as it flows to the top, all the junk. And then it says, even though it floated to the top, so the wine there in the bird is already, we're talking about in the bird, is already settled, it's already gemar malacha. You're allowed at the same time The wine and the boy all comes from the same grapes. But Coldman, the wine is not sitting in the boy. The wine is still sitting in the gas el It hasn't yet fallen to the boy. The same time, they'll have from the same grapes. The wine that's sitting in the boy is considered Gemar Malacha, Yechai Maisa, and the wine sitting in the gas el is not Chayiv yet. Umin Hatzinner, and also the pipe. There used to be a pipe going from the gas el into the boy. Even the wine that's in the pipe is not wine yet, and it's not Chayiv and Maisa yet, and therefore you can at least eat casual. But the same time, the wine that's in the boy is also. So what's clear from here? The only reason why you're drawing a contrast is because they're connected to each other. If you're talking about you took the wine out of the boil and only after you put it in the barrel, that's when it's Gemar Malacha. So what do you tell me the wine in there? Firstly, because of a bigger chiddush, the wine in the boil is still you're allowed to drink because it's not just Gemar Malacha. And also there's no connection. What are you drawing a contrast to? No connection. So obviously we're talking about the boil. It's connected, but that's again the wine in the boil is Gemar Malacha. The wine that's in the midrin and the wine that's in the pipe, but it's in it, is not Gemar Malacha. So we see Shmamina, keep the word coming in Shmamina. So what we have here is that our Mishnah holds the Mishnah Rishona and the Rabbanan here that is by Meiser, and we say no difference Meiser Avodah Zarah. In the boy, its only time is when it's considered wine for Avodah Zarah. It's only time considered wine for Meiser. That's Mishnah Rishona, and that's what we're following right now. Says the Gemara, Tani Rabzvid, Bedvei Rabbi Isha. Didn't Rabzvid learn from Brisa for Rabbi Isha that Yayin Mishiyoda, his Brisa version is something else altogether? Here it says like this: Yayin, the first opinion says Yayin Mishiyoda Leboy V'Yikva, not while it's still sitting in the midron or whatever, or sitting in the boyer. In the boyer itself, still the Yikva. You need the all the dregs and everything else to flow to the top. And Rabbi Kiva says Mishiyishla Bechavius. Rabbi Kiva holds it. When you put it into, you draw it out of the boil and you put it into the barrel. So what's going on here? You just had two opinions. Comes as a third opinion now. Mishnah, the Tanakama says, as soon as you put it in the boil. The next opinion says, no, Rabbi Kiva says, Mishayikva when the dregs in the boil, and you brought it out from another Mishnah, that definitely means in the boil. And now we have a third opinion. See, also when you put it in the barrel, and the first opinion, which is the boil, doesn't mean the boil, and it settles in the boil, which means that the dregs come up, that all the scum comes up. So in other words, there's only two opinions. Boil means mishiyikva, echo. That's what it means. Rabbi Kiva says mishiyishal b'chavi. So there's only two opinions. But our Mishnah, okay, that explains the Bryce up here when you have a machlekes Rabbanan in the Mishnah, Rabbi Kiva. When we'll say when the Rabbanan say the what do you call the boy, it means the dregs reach the boy. When I ask the question, but our Mishnah, the Tony Eini Oisi Yain Nesachat Yer LeBoy. Lema Tlosa Tanois, and then you have three opinions. You have the Mishnah that says boy. Here you have the Chachamim who say boy sheyikve when it floats to the top, and then you have Rabbi Kiva who says only when the Chavis floats to the top. All the Rishonim want to know why is the just say the same title on Mishnah. But our Mishnah says Achiyeh LeBoy means LeBoy the Yikva, just like you translate it. And they all say that our Mishnah, if that's what it meant, it should have said it. Because we didn't introduce the whole idea yet of removing, waiting for the dregs to rise. So if the Chiddush is, if the din on Mishnah is not just the bird, it's a while later, it should have said, the bird, Achiyikva. Anyway, so l'chayda lei matlasat hanai. So now the one answers loy, no. Shine the yain nesek dachmi rabbanan. There's totally two opinions. How come our Mishnah says as soon as it reaches the boil, it already has a din of wine, even before you have the scum rising to the top? Our Mishnah about Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah, what's from machmer? That's from a meiser. When you have a chiva meiser, the nigmar malacha. So the din is, but over here Avodah Zarah, and Avodah Zarah is much more machmer. As soon as it reaches the boil, it will treat it like wine and so on. This already goes very interesting. He goes a whole chakira. Where is this gas? If this gas is out in the Rosh Hashanah, then we have a suffix Rosh Hashanah is tired. And not only that. And when it comes to Maisa, you're not chayiv until it reaches Pnei Bayis. So what's going on here? The whole thing is, where's the chayiv Maisa? And if it's in the house, that means you brought the grapes into the house. And we learned before, one of the ways of circumnavigating the laws of Maisa, Mahatoid, is bringing it in with Moitzula, bring it in its husk. So if you brought it with the grapes and then you completed the job in the house with the gas and the grapes, so then it's no chiv. So what's going on there? So taste basically has to learn is that the gas was outside and then you brought it into the house and you finished the job. So since it was already sort of whatever you did outside, you come out of there, and then you brought it to the house. Then you brought the chavis in the house, and then you let it rise in the house, and then it's already pnei bayis. It's sort of like you put the two together. You started half outside, and the other half you did inside, and it's almost like marmalachik. You took it out of the house already. You started treading it. You started already taking it out of the, start squeezing the grapes. Says the Gemara, but Rava clearly Rava, when he was asked the question between Al Mishnah and Meiser, he gave a whole teretz that Al Mishnah follows the Rabbanon, and the boy that he was talking about, Adap Yikvus. I mean, that he holds there's no difference between Avodah Zarah and Meiser. Now we just proved that the Ebazed had three opinions. Our Mishnah says boy. The way you amended the other Mishnah is the Chacham hold by boy take but achi yikva until it rises, and the Rabbi Kiva holds by a chavis achi yikva. Three opinions. But yeah, Mukin la kit lessons. You have no brainer but to learn that three different opinions over here. Then Rav Huna said, we're not talking about legas. When do we say that you're not chayiv? Only okay. Way it works is you had a midron, you had this big, you treaded the grapes, then you have a big, like a sieve or a strainer. You have a big strainer on the bottom to collect all the pulp and all the grape skins and the twigs and all that, so it shouldn't fall into the bud. They had a strainer, but there's also wine trapped in there as well because the pieces clog up the holes. And so what do you do with that wine? If you take that gurgoidus and you put it back, what you do is they would put it back into the midron, so you step more and squeeze more grapes, the juice out of it. But now this already was, as we'll soon see, was connected already to the bud. So therefore, the wine that's come back in now already has enough yayin. Is a problem of stam yayin. Until now, we said the midron is mutter, only what's in the bud. But if you take this basket and you bring it back up there on top, then you now remove that. The only obvious problem is that Hunu told us before he already paskened, like the Mishnah Charoina, that all the wine on the midron, even before the Gergoyres, is already considered the stam yainam. What's going on there? The easiest thing is someone to say he's explaining even the Mishnah Shona, how the Mishnah Shona understood. Others learn even according to him. But anyway, he didn't take that what's inside that strainer and throw it back into the gas to keep on trading it again, because then it will be usher. Why? The gagusi is not sitting inside the boil. The gagusi is at the end of this midline, and right after there's a boil. So why should the wine that's trapped there in all the junk in the bottom of the strainer, why should that become yain stam yainam? Gagusi gufa ma'ika mitzvah. Why is it everything but a ben nitzah? We'll learn later on. So we learn the theme of patches here as well. A big machlek is if nitzah is kimbechuba or not. So therefore, let's bring a eye from here. That nitzah, because you're pouring. Like you're pouring from a top to the bottom. The flow itself connects the top to the bottom. So therefore, even though the strainer is not sitting inside the bud, but since the wine is pouring from the strainer into the bud, as soon as the wine touches the bud, and the wine is leaving the strainer, it connects the strainer to the bud, and that's why whatever wine is inside the strainer becomes stam yainam. For the Gemara, let's bring a eye from here that nitzik is hakechibur. We'll have later on a machlekes. The Shemir will ask, so what's the big deal? Rav Huna is the one who says there that nitzik is kimechibur. So the Shita say, what's going on? It's more like a comment than a question. The Gemara, no. We can learn another pshat. Maybe it's nothing to do with nitzik, and that's why this is not brought in. So what is it? Because otherwise, which means that maybe that there's too much something else, but there's an overflow. So maybe you actually put the strainer into the boil, and some of the wine, or the wine in the boil overflows, and some of the wine in the boil actually enters the gargusi. So it's not, the original wine that never entered the boil, and you want to know how did it become stam yainam. There's some wine that was in the boil that overflows to the top, and it comes into the strainer's mama sitting right above the boil. So it went into the gargusi. So that talking about the case of the boil itself, the case of Shvachas we'll see later on the Gemara. So it overflowed, it filled up, and therefore the wine itself touched the bottom of the strainer, and we're talking about real, the wine. Amazing thing. Ahu Yenuka. It was a Yenuka. The Tana Avodah Chavim B'Shitshni. In Shulchan Aruch, it brings down in Hilchos Talmud Chacham that they say we're talking about the Zokin that you have to stand up for a Chacham. But Shulchan Aruch says Afilu Yenuka. It doesn't say what a Yenuka is. So the Best Yosef brings there from someone, I can't remember who, he says, under Bar Mitzvah. Even a kid under Bar Mitzvah, if he's a Chacham, then everyone has to stand up for him. Here the Gemara says the Yenuka is 6 years old. No, even 6. Yeah, like even, in other words, it's not to do with age. The way he reads it, it sounds like he's 12 years old already. You know, he's almost Bar Mitzvah, but he's not Bar Mitzvah yet. He's a 6-year-old kid. If he's a Chacham and didn't have a Schnell, what do you call this in English? Didn't have this little thing there between the nose and the mouth, so he didn't forget his learning Torah when he was young. So that's Yenuka. You have Tanya Lamed Hey, the Peg Lamed Hey. You know, the Yenuka that. Anyway, a Yenuka can be 6 years old. You don't have to imagine a 12-year-old. And yeah, this 6-year-old kid, he learned the whole Avodah Zarah when he was 6 years old. And they asked him questions. Someone would say they were just testing him. Someone would say, I want to know the halacha, what he would pass. They want to know his svara. There's a machlekes and achronim whether he would take it seriously. Do you have to be bar mitzvah? In Shulchan Aruch it says that you shouldn't be a rav and pasuk until you're 40, unless there's no one equal. Here we're going to go a lot less than that, under bar mitzvah. And the machlekes others whether in achronim whether you actually listen to the psak of the Yenuka or just stamping about it, having a discussion. Anyway, they asked him the following question: Basically, we had a Mishnah Shari, Mishnah Achrayna. Are you allowed to be doidek with a guy together with a guy? Tumah is not a problem because the guy already did it. The question is it already asa bahana? Is it already stam yenim in that stage over there, and therefore you're getting money from Isa? No, you're not allowed to. Or we say it's not asa bahana until it reaches the boy. He said, Darshan, you're allowed to. So they asked him right away, what do you mean how you allowed to? Mishnah Achrayna says not allowed to. The guy is mamish using his, he might touch it with his hand, and he's menatzich the wine, and you're going to get paid, even in the stage of midrain. You tied in the yodei. You tied his hands up, so therefore it's only his feet. So what? Why isn't that a problem? So we say nisr the regel loish mein nisr. Big machlek is whether the pshat here is that it's not asa b'hana, or even it's not even asa in drinking. That if a guy just trade with his feet, it's not even asa drinking. Why? Because it's not Avodah Zarah is something you do with covered. Thing that you do with your feet is not covered, so therefore they say that it's not even shaykh, the whole union. Others say that it is shaykh because if that's how you tread grapes, then it's you can't say it's hedra covered. But nevertheless, you shouldn't be a chashash that he'll do it with his hands. Sometimes the grapes fall out to the side. You go and pick up the grapes and put it back in the midrange. So he said, "Weiter, Ahuv is a story that the Dosha Yisrael. Now we're talking about a Yiddish wine, and according to a Yiddish wine, till now we're talking about the wine belonged to a guy, and you're an employee. Is there a problem of this or no? Now we're talking about a Yiddish wine, and a guy touched it. What is the din regarding the wine? So there was a story that happened. The Yid and a guy together were treading this wine, and they wanted to know it's a Yiddish wine. Is there a problem or not? And he was using his feet. So the Shia Shmuel waited till plus a digle. Every Yom Tov, all the Tamid Chacham come together, Yachikala. He waited 3 Yom Tovim to see if anybody would agree with his opinion. But he doesn't tell us what his opinion is. When I my time, what was his opinion that he was looking for help? Now, if he follows the Chachamim, there's only any help. It's Paskin like the Rabbim. Obviously, he's trying to find an opinion of a Yachid. He knows, and he wants to see if anybody else agrees with him. You can Paskin Halacha L'Maisa. What did he want to do? Did he want to be Machmir? Did he want to be Mekel? Did he want to go to the extreme to Asa Bahana as well? Because normally we say it's just Asa in drinking. Or you want to be Mekel altogether that says treading with your feet, you're allowed to drink it. Somebody holds the Mishkach the Tan. If I could find another Tana, the Asik be Machmir like I'm Nasan. I would go out and say, not only not allowed to drink it, because you had a goy. What do you have a goy for? Even asbana, even though it's Yiddish wine, who's that opinion? The Tanya, the Braisa, Modade. What if the goy measured? He wanted to measure the wine, so he had no interest in. He had a kavanah to touch, but not for any purposes other than measuring the wine, not for drinking or anything else. Bein biyad, bein beregel. What by hand of food? You're allowed to sell it mutabano. Okay, he put his finger in there and everything, and he wanted to, so it's bekavana, you're not allowed to drink it, but at least you're allowed to have enough. And Abnasan says, biyad osir, by hand it's osir to drink it and bahana. But beregel mutter. And beregel is mutter, just enough. So therefore, he wanted to be machmar like Abnasan, so he was waiting to see if anybody agrees that he can be so machmar or not. The Gemara asks, I don't understand. Eimudam Abnasan biyad. Abnasan was machmar by hand. But beregel miyam, he wasn't talking about a foot. And this case here was, they were trading, you trade with your feet. So now, in fact, everyone wants to know what do you even have to have this discussion for? It's obvious it's not Abnasan. Abnasan doesn't talk about the regel. Elodi mishkach the time to shadi. He wanted to be makel, like Rab Shimon. Isharia, he be matir afilu b'striya. He wanted to be makel Rab Shimon that even drinking should be mutter. And we'll see later on, Rab Shimon is matir completely, and therefore, and he couldn't find someone who would agree with his matir like Rab Shimon. And we'll learn in the next few days. Okay, continue tomorrow, Mitzvah.